OpenAI is no longer just building a chatbot. It is now building the AI infrastructure for America's war machine. In July 2025, Anthropic signed a $200 million Pentagon contract and became the first frontier AI lab approved to operate inside classified defense networks. But that access to Claude came with conditions for Pentagon. Anthropic did not want its models used for domestic mass surveillance or for autonomous weapons without meaningful human oversight. Then, the relationship collapsed. On February 27th, after weeks of pressure, the Pentagon reportedly gave Anthropic an ultimatum: remove the restrictions or lose the deal. Anthropic refused. What followed was extraordinary. Anthropic was designated a supply chain risk to national security and cut off from federal use immediately. That label matters because it is the kind of instrument Washington has historically reserved for firms tied to foreign adversaries, names like Huawei and Kaspersky. Using it against an American AI company over a fight about military and surveillance limits shows just how aggressively the government was willing to escalate. Within hours of that escalation between the Pentagon and Anthropic, Sam Altman's OpenAI signed its own Pentagon deal to provide its models inside the same national security environment. Critics argue that the initial contract language contained loopholes broad enough to weaken meaningful restrictions on domestic surveillance and autonomous weapons use. This is a huge deal, and I believe the turning point where OpenAI stops looking like a productivity platform and starts looking like a tech company moving deeper into the machinery of surveillance, intelligence, and military power. That shift in perception matters because trust in AI is unusually fragile. Most people do not understand model architecture, military procurement, or classified network deployment. What they do understand is alignment at the level of instinct. Who seems to be drawing lines, and who seems willing to blur them? Once OpenAI is associated with state power in that way, every future safety promise starts sounding more conditional. And users noticed this immediately. In the aftermath of the Pentagon deal, ChatGPT uninstalls reportedly surged 295% in a single day, while one-star reviews spiked 775%. At the same time, Claude surged in downloads and briefly climbed to the top of the App Store rankings. That uninstall surge is not just a sign of outrage. It suggests users understood the category change Sam Altman is pushing OpenAI through. OpenAI is no longer just a tech company. It is starting to look more like Palantir, a company moving closer to the institutions of surveillance, coercion, and war. That kind of damage is harder to fix than a normal PR crisis. In consumer tech, people forgive bugs. In AI, they are far less willing to forgive a collapse of trust. Once users start feeling that the same company helping them write emails, do research, and process their personal lives is also building for the military security state, the relationship changes. The product starts to feel less like a tool and more like an extension of power. And once these systems are normalized inside classified environments, each additional use case becomes easier to justify than the last. First, the model helps summarize intelligence. Then it helps filter signals. Then it helps prioritize targets of attention. Then it becomes embedded in time-sensitive workflows where officials argue that removing it would create unacceptable friction. The system does not need to be fully autonomous to become deeply consequential. It only needs to become indispensable. What happened here should settle one illusion once and for all. Frontier AI companies do not operate above politics. They are being pulled directly into the core machinery of state power. And once the market sees that a company can be punished for drawing hard lines and rewarded for remaining more operationally pliable, the incentive structure changes for everyone. That is why this matters. Not because OpenAI signed one controversial contract, but because this moment changes the meaning of AI safety itself. If safety boundaries can be weakened the moment state pressure and strategic money become serious enough, then they are no longer boundaries. And once that becomes normal, the damage does not stop with one company. The entire market begins to adapt. The firms willing to blur the line get the access. The firms willing to soften the language get the revenue. That is the real danger here. Not just more military AI, but an AI industry trained to treat principle as temporary and power as the ultimate customer. OpenAI does not need to build the weapon itself to become part of the war machine. It only needs to become indispensable to the systems that decide who gets watched, who gets flagged, and who gets destroyed. So tell me this: what does the future look like when OpenAI stops being a frontier AI lab and starts becoming a defense contractor with better branding. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. See you in the next one.